So, you gotta tell me two things. One, where'd it go? Would you like to have this, the old little quarter here, this little sucker, or a piece of paper? Which one would you rather have? And do you trust Bitcoin? Do you know what Bitcoin is? Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina Kairos, Tina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy smanchy stuff going on here. Ah, I got an itch. So, if you haven't watched Flashback Monday, please tune in. I put a lot of work into these episodes. No one watches them. We review over 80 books, sometimes 60, sometimes 70. So you're looking for a new mystery series or a science fiction or contemporary romance or Regency or historical or Harlequin or paranormal, come check me out. We started in 2007. We are up to 2012. We're almost finished with 2012. So please check all those out, all those episodes that nobody is watching. My if thens on Fridays after Star Trek Next Generation recaps, and my daily book reviews. And we are talking about The Atlas Maneuver by Steve Berry. And it's all about Bitcoin. Do you believe in Bitcoin? Do you trust Bitcoin? Do you know what Bitcoin is? This is book 18 in the Malone Cotton series. I usually go through some character listings, but you really don't need to know too much. Cotton is he's worked for the Magellan organization for the US for a very long time. He retired he owns a bookstore in Copenhagen, I think. And he's retired, but he does do special jobs every now and then. This guy, Koger, and every time it's spelled Koger, and every time I see Koger, I'm thinking Kroger, the grocery store. And I keep thinking he left out an R out of the guy's name. Sorry. And he is Cotton's girlfriend, Cassiopeia, but I just call her Cassie. So those are mainly your two main specific characters, recurring characters. His boss comes into it briefly towards the end, but we're not going to worry about that. So, it turns out, whether it's mythical or not, but the book starts with the end of World War II, and apparently the Japanese had gathered up billions and billions of dollars in gold bars, and they had it all nicely buried in these tunnels, and at the end they killed everybody so no one could tell where the gold was. Later on, the U.S. got a hold of some of it, not all of it, but some of it. And apparently they hid it in a Swiss bank, supposedly. So, we start the book off with the beginning in the Philippines with the World War II. Then we have Koger calling, and be prepared for spoilers. I won't tell you how it ends, but I will tell you most of the rest of the book. So I wanted to get to my notes here. I'm for my story, there are three groups of people here. So Kroger calls Cotton and tells him he needs him to protect this chick. Doesn't tell him anything about the just tells him this is her description, go protect her. Cotton goes is just standing out, surveilling. He's not approaching her. He's not doing nothing. And this car comes up and attempts to kill her, so Cotton saves her life. And then...
This is a reminder.
So then Cotton calls Kroger. Hey, look, they just made an attempt on the chick. I'm not sure where she went. She went running. I lost her in the disturbance. And Kroger says, I know exactly where she is. She's here. Cotton goes into the place, the store where the girl ducked in. And it's his old girlfriend from a very long time ago when he was younger and foolish and did stupid things. And she goes by two names. Her former name was Susie. And she went through this horrific accident. And when it was all over, she changed her name to Kelly. And so Susie Kelly. She's the same person. Susie Kelly, the same person. So for this story, they're looking for the gold, but they're also got this other mystery. All right, so this Susie Kelly here is supposedly brilliant beyond brilliant, and it's all about Bitcoin. Kelly's part, or Susie's part of the story, is all about Bitcoin. It can be done, Kelly. They were enjoying lunch, just the two of them, when alone. They were Katie and Kelly, friends, colleagues. A lot had happened over the past few years, revolutionary things, and thanks to them, the world was about to change. I've worked it all through, Kelly said. It's ready to go. We can do this. 4 months ago, they'd been secretly briefed by the CIA. America was in the midst of the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression of 1929. A perfect storm had formed from the risky investments by banks in questionable home mortgages, fueled by an overall drop in real estate prices, compounded by an inability of large lending institutions to cover the losses. It started in 2007, and now by August 2008 had spread across the globe like a fire burning out of control. A worldwide recession loomed, threatening nearly every economy with a full-scale depression. She agreed something had to be done. But she wanted to know, are you sure this is the solution? Is this what they asked for? The CIA had been specific in their wants and desires. An alternative financial system needed to be created. One independent of government control. Private, easy to operate, widely accessible, peer-to-peer, but under CIA control. Blockchain is revolutionary, Kelly said. This is the answer. It builds unto itself, keeps itself honest, and just grows, one block at a time. It's a central source of truth, unflinching, incorruptible, and the best part, no one else has it. We'll be the first. I've tested it over and over again. It's totally hack-proof and can become exactly what the CIA wants. If they are to be believed, she said, it better work or the world may be without financial systems. It will work. I want to hear every detail before I give the okay, she said to Kelly. It's important I understand what you created, but I'm curious. Have you thought of a name? Bitcoin. And then they have the two girls are working for this bank in Switzerland. And Kelly's they're sort of kind of partners, but Katie is the boss, or Catherine. She goes Catherine in the book. And Kelly is the one that created the Bitcoin. And then after giving it seriously, after she's finished creating the whole thing and got the whole thing established and they're ready to run with it, they've already started using it, Kelly decides she has cold feet. Kelly decides she's not sure. Kelly decides, so Katie was accessing the stuff. And a message pops up. If you're reading this, then you've requested a new key or keys. It or they are your last. Before I left, I made some changes. Your actions have encrypted the air gap server, over which I have total control. I assure you there is no way to override or disconnect from what I've done. Any attempt will erase the keys to all of the wallets, along with the internal hard drive backups. Your only way to access those wallets now is through me, and by the way, I quit. So she leaves, and she leaves Katie in a lurch in a very difficult position. Susie Kelly has access to gabillions, and it's just so now Katie is determined to get Kelly back, and supposedly it turns out later that the Japanese also are get involved. They want it too, and so she's explaining governments can adopt Bitcoin as their formal currency, a means of exchange for goods and services within their nation. They could even use Bitcoin value as their reserve currency, backing up whatever currency they currently use. No more dollars or euros. Right now, gold is the most valuable asset on earth. But by the time the fourth halving occurs, Bitcoin will be the rarest asset on earth, twice as scarce as gold. Bitcoin could literally replace gold in value. Do you really think? Where's my paper? What did I do with my paper? You really think this could replace gold? So, a chase is on for Kelly. Kelly Susie. She runs into Cotton. She hooks up with him. And she is explaining this stuff to him. And she gets kidnapped. So she's also explaining through the bank's private lobbying, which had been massive amounts of bribery, 9 nations in Central and South America have already adopted Bitcoin as their legal currency, placing it on the same international status as the dollar or euro. There are citizens now had the legal option to use Bitcoin instead of other currencies, and they were doing just that. Every day, millions of transactions, 6 of those nations had gone one step further and certified Bitcoin as their reserve currency. A reserve was a large quantity of wealth maintained by a nation's central bank for investments, spending international debt obligations, and meeting exchange rates. Since 1944, the US dollar had been the primary reserve currency for most countries. And for good reason. At one time, the American gross domestic product, a measure of the total national economic activity, presented 50% of the world's entire economic output. Following the famed Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, delegates from 44 nations formally adopted the US dollar as their official reserve currency. Dollars were backed by gold, which meant their reserves were backed by gold. But in the 1960s, America needed money for Lyndon Johnson's Great Society and to fight Vietnam. So it was started printing dollars by the billions. With all that new money in circulation, the amount of gold backing those dollars diminished, which reduced the value of the dollar held in reserve by foreign countries. As the United States flooded markets with paper dollars, understandably the world grew cautious and began to convert their dollar reserves back into gold. I mean, would you rather have a piece of paper or some zeros, ones and zeros on a computer screen than a physical dollar? Yeah, this may not buy as much as it used to. You know, Years ago, it would buy a gallon of gas. Hell, some years ago, it would buy 2 gallons of gas, but it doesn't do that now. But, or would you rather have the piece of paper? Then she talks about there's this other thing that was devised. The Black Eagle Trust was used to cultivate post-war Japan into an anti-communist bastion. Part of that involved financing a death squad headed by U.S. Army Colonel, which was targeted student leaders, liberals, leftists, union organizers, journalists, anyone and everyone who got in the way of the revival of capitalism in Japan. Joseph Keenan, the chief prosecutor in the Tokyo war crimes trials, drew on the funds to bribe witnesses to falsify their testimony so that the reputation of the emperor, right-wing politicians, and other war criminals would be rehabilitated. Those men eventually used to solidify Western influence in post-war Japan. By 1950, a branch of the Black Eagle Trust called the M Fund had been created especially for Japan. Its value amounted to almost 10% of Japan's entire gross national product at the time. The dividend from this fund financed Japan's self-defense army and the information of the right-wing Liberal Democratic Party. And they go on to talk about more stuff. From the 1950s to the 90s, the Black Eagle Trust was used to interface with sovereign nations, buy elections, undercut the rule of law, control the media, and carry out assassinations. This is scary stuff. And then it's also revealed that the CIA had this thing called Neverlight. And anybody that did something that was not approved of, they never saw the light of day again. That it's just a cleanup. It cleans up the messes. The potential for abuse is obvious. No oversight means no rules, no accountability, anything goes. But here the covert relationship between the agency and the Bank of St. George is gone. The bank is now empty. Langley wants no evidence of anything to do with the Black Eagle Trust to exist. Nothing. Wipe it all clean. Gold and people. Get rid of it all. The Neverlight program. And then we have the Bitcoin. And she says, I wanted to read this little part here. Mining gold from the ground or filtering it out of a river was mimicked by solving a complex mathematical challenge fed to computers through a specialized program. Like a lottery number that the computers must decipher, scrolling through the billions of possible combinations. If found, a block on the chain was sealed and the miner earned a coin. Proof of work, it was called. The rewards themselves known as subsidy. The challenge came from landing on the right answer before anyone else. In the beginning, miners used ordinary computers, but then smartly they moved to ultra high-speed machines. In the beginning, back in 2009, 50 Bitcoin were generated with each block solved. After 200,000 blocks were subsidy were cut to 25. 420,000 to 12.5, 630 to 6.25. The latest having 84 blocks dropped the subsidy to 3125. On average, having occurred roughly every 4 years, 32 in all, no more, and like gold, there was a finite amount of Bitcoin. The program could only create 21 million. The number had been set when blockchain was first made public on the internet. But Susie explains more. The CIA and the bank created Bitcoin in 2009 for good reason. It's sent to be ready just in case the world collapsed. After the crisis passed, the CIA lost interest in Bitcoin. Typically, they have an attention span of a 3-year-old. I don't think they ever saw the potential, but the bank kept going, morphing Bitcoin in the phenomenon it is today. One coin is worth what, 50 grand? Pretty damn good for something that is nothing more than a blip on a computer program. A blip on a computer. Would you rather have this or a blip on a computer program? More and more countries are adopting Bitcoin as their currency and reserve, which was my idea. I thought it was a good thing. Why not? The world was ready for a change in value. What the world doesn't know is that the Bank of St. George can control the value of the Bitcoin. They can make it go up or down at will. Bitcoiners love to say how they're free of governmental regulation and have total anonymity and independence. They do. But both of those traits also make it easy to manipulate. How is that possible? There are 20 million Bitcoin out there. It's actually quite simple. About 15% of those 20 million are gone, meaning their owners lost the digital keys. Once gone, those coins are no longer in play. They can't be retrieved without the key. That leaves about 15.5 million active coins. At present, the Bank of St. George owns 4.5 million of those. That's nearly a third of the whole pot. Of course, no one knows that since ownership is completely anonymous. Bitcoin pricing is governed by the market. Buying and selling determines the daily value on exchange. So the bank has to do is buy and sell its own coins to itself. With every transaction, the overall price of Bitcoin in the various exchanges is affected. They can send it up or down, whatever they want. The whole Bitcoin market is like penguins on the edge of the ice about to leap into the water. They all bunch up and freeze, waiting for one to take the plunge. Once that happens, they all move until another hesitates, then they stop. There's simply no independent thinking. It's a collective mind that simply reacts. The more nations that switch, the more influence the bank possesses. It's an example. Venezuela is now on the Bitcoin standard. Let's say one of the bank clients wants to invest there or buy something and the government is not cooperating to make that happen. There are fees, commissions, and interest to be made by the bank if the transaction happens. So the bank starts buying and selling Bitcoin to itself. They control thousands of online wallets, so those transactions are spread out across many trading exchanges and would raise no alarms. Billions buy sell happen every day, but enough activity would affect the price. And if those buy and sells are carefully manipulated, the overall Bitcoin market could react up or down, depending on the manipulation. Since the bank is buying and selling to itself with its own money, it's losing nothing. They can buy their own coins at lower than market, which will simply drive the market price down, or they could do the opposite and raise it. So, aren't you afraid of Bitcoin? Why would you trust Bitcoin? It can be erased by the press of a button. You still have this physical. It may not be worth as much as it used to be worth, but you still got the physical instead of a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper. It's just really scary. This is a really interesting book. This is such an interesting book. So Kelly has walked out and she gets in with Cotton and she hangs out with Cotton a while until she's kidnapped by the Japanese and Cotton rescues her. But she decides she makes a phone call to Katie, and Katie blackmails her into returning, which is a foolish move. I'm sitting there going, no, 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 don't go, don't go, don't go. But we have our two groups. We have Kroger and Cassie and Citron working, and there's a lot of double crossing. There's a whole bunch of double crossing. Everybody's double crossing everybody. And then you have Kira, the assassin, and Katie, and Kelly, depending on which day she's on. And then you have Cotton, and he gets a surprising partner in the middle of the book. So you'll have to read about that. But it just his Steve. I love my other favorite book of Steve's is The Patriot Debt. I did it a while back. You'll have to go check that out. But I did do a video on that. But this was a really fast read. It was fascinating. It was scary. Just to think about the fact that people are now accepting Bitcoin on a daily basis. It's just. We really don't have too many speed chases in this book, which is good. There's been a couple of Cotton books where it's been like chapter after chapter of speed chases. But this was really a lot of Bitcoin information, a lot of historical information. I like history. And he tells some stuff in the back. I love the author notes. Victoria Thompson does that too at the end of her novels, stuff that was based on history. But it's such a good book. It's such a good book. You have to think about it. But it really is a good book. And the Bitcoin stuff is just scary. How computers are just taking over the world. And what happens to the money? Where is the gold? That's revealed at the end. And the whole time you're like, Kelly, Susie, no. But she comes through in the end, in her final breaths, in her final words in the book. She comes through the Cotton, and you think it's gonna go this way, and Steve throws a twist and it goes that way. It's amazing the number of twists and amazing plot manipulations, but Steve Berry does a really good job, and these are really good books. I hope I didn't bore you with all my reading, but I just found all the Bitcoin information very interesting, and I just wanted to share. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.